Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I don't know if you've seen this news making rounds, but South Africa has asked some African countries to pay back the bill using sending their citizens back home. When I saw the amount, I was like, hold on, wait a minute, almost 80 million US dollars. Yes, you heard me. South Africa said this is the amount they've spent for repatriation related costs during this massive immigration lockdown. And now they're looking at these African countries whose citizens have been sent back home and saying, can you help us with the bill? The countries specifically mentioned were Nigeria, Malawi, Ethiopia.
The Home Affairs Department says the scale of repatriation operation has placed significant pressure on its finances. It says the number of people repatriated in such a short period is unprecedented.
You know, if we look at the numbers of repatriations that were done, I think the latest figure was sitting around 75,000, really unprecedented in such a short space of time.
The department's Director General says the operation was not budgeted for, describing the expenditure as an unfunded mandate.
Chairperson, I need to indicate that this is an unfunded mandate. As the Department of Home Affairs and other departments that have been involved in this matter, we have not budgeted for this.
The department is now returned to the governments of the respective countries through the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, asking them to reimburse South Africa for the costs of repatriating their nationals.
We have also written to the government of Malawi and of course the embassies of Nigeria and Ethiopia requesting reimbursements of this cost through the Department of DERCO, and we are anticipating responses from those governments.
Home Affairs says the repatriation program remains a major financial burden, with the department now looking to both the National Treasury and the affected countries to help cover the costs.
South Africa wants the governments of Malawi, Nigeria and Ethiopia to reimburse it for the cost of sending thousands of their citizens back home.
Going back home, Malawi.
According to the Department of Home Affairs, the government has spent nearly $18 million accommodating and transporting foreign nationals who either demanded to return voluntarily or were deported. Officials briefed lawmakers on Tuesday as migration tensions continue to dominate public debate. Government figures show that 82,875 people have either been deported or voluntarily repatriated since the crisis began. However, figures released by migrants' home countries put the number much higher at around 178,000. The tensions escalated in June when anti-immigration protests intensified and thousands of foreign nationals sought to leave the country. Others were deported through normal immigration enforcement procedures. Between April and July, 16,078 people, mainly from Lesotho, Malawi, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique, were deported through the Lindela Repatriation Center. South African authorities also say they have arrested nearly 60,000 people living in the country illegally, including more than 16,000 in July alone. Pretoria is now seeking to share the financial burden. The Department of Home Affairs says it has sent written requests for reimbursement to Malawi, Nigeria and Ethiopia. Malawians were among the largest groups returned, alongside Zimbabweans and Mozambicans. The government argues that South Africa should not bear the entire cost of returning foreign nationals given the scale of the operation. Home Affairs Director General Tommy Makonde described the expenses as unforeseen and unavoidable. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs says the department spent about $18 million on deportation and repatriation, far above its original allocation of roughly $3.7 million. The money covered transportation, accommodation, temporary facilities, and other logistical costs. The Home Affairs Committee chairperson, Mosa Chabane, warned that the department could not absorb the expense alone. He said the department, like all other departments, is facing financial difficulty, adding that if the funds are not reimbursed, it will have a direct impact on the baseline of the department and will affect planned programs.
Breaking news: South Africa wants 5 African countries to pay back millions of dollars. So South Africa government is saying that it spent $18 million to repatriate citizens from Nigeria, Malawi, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And South Africa is saying that they want this money to be paid back to them. So they spent this money on food and also on buses expenses, temporary accommodations, and other repatriation costs. South Africa says some countries helped with some part of the process, but the biggest financial burden fell on Pretoria. So South Africa wants these countries to pay back part of the money, but do you think especially Nigeria is going to pay this money? Because Nigeria was seeking a asset refund from South Africa, and South Africa, they said no. They said they are not going to pay for any assets which were left behind by Nigerians in South Africa. So Nigerian government was saying that their citizens left a lot of assets in South Africa worth millions, and they were seeking for South Africa to take responsibility. But South Africa, they said no. Can you imagine this? Even some government officials, they were telling the government to take profit from South African businesses in Nigeria in order to pay off for all these assets which were left behind in South Africa.
South Africa is demanding $80 million from Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Malawi. According to South Africa, that is the amount of money they spent to repatriate the citizens of those countries back to their home countries. So according to South Africa, because they did not deport the citizens of those countries, but gave them the chance to be voluntarily repatriated, the costs need to be borne by those countries. The issue is South Africa did not agree with those countries about paying the cost before this moment. I will explain to you why this matters in this video. In 2004, China and the EU signed an agreement where when a Chinese citizen is found to be living in the EU beyond their visa, they will be repatriated to China. The cost of the repatriated will be paid for by the EU country, and China will reimburse the EU country for the cost. There was an agreement between the EU and China. Explicit agreement where China agreed to refund any money that any EU country spent to repatriate Chinese citizens. In this case, South Africa and the countries they are demanding the funds from did not have any explicit agreement to have the money paid. What happened was, in the midst of the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, the government of South Africa had to satisfy two parties: the citizens of South Africa who were making the xenophobic attacks, and the other outside countries who are partners of South Africa but had their citizens being attacked. So South Africa and those countries came to an agreement that we are going to get your citizens to voluntarily repatriate from South Africa. Voluntary repatriate means that they are not going to be undergoing deportation, because deportation is a legal process. So we'll talk more about that. So instead of them undergoing deportation, you get them to voluntarily repatriate to your country, and the countries agreed to that. The government of South Africa has not said that Nigeria agreed with them that they're going to pay the money. The way China agreed with the EU, the government of South Africa have not said that. What South Africa is doing is taking from the Trump playbook. Remember when Trump said he's going to build a wall and Mexico will pay for it, and Mexico has not paid for it till date? That is what South Africa is doing. They're going to spend the $18 million, and Nigeria, Malawi, and Ethiopia will pay for it. I don't think Nigeria is going to pay for it, because they don't agree to pay for it with you. You cannot have an expense unauthorized and expect somebody else to take the bill.
First of all, South Africa is not smiling, yes. So South Africa is seeking reimbursement from Nigeria, Malawi, and Ethiopia for the cost of repatriating their nationals as the country intensified, understand. So whilst all this thing was going on, Ghana there, they repatriated their own people with their own money, with their own aircraft and everything. But the other nationals, Ethiopia, Malawi, and the rest, the South African government actually used their money to bring them back to their countries. So the South African government say the Malawi government, the Ethiopia government, the Nigeria government should pay them back their money. It's not their duty to send the people back. They should pay them back their money. As for Zimbabwe, their president told them that they should walk back. So South Africa is seeking for reimbursement of $18 million from these three nations.
Nigeria said, "We helped you during apartheid." South Africa said, "Thank you. Here is your bill, $18.5 million.
Honestly, this is the part I want to hear people debate about. Should Nigeria, Malawi and Ethiopia pay back South Africa, or should South Africa just simply accept that the cost of enforcing its own immigration law is the government's responsibility? Because $80 million is not a small amount. It's a very serious amount. And now South Africa is saying they want it back. So I'm curious, if you were the Nigerian, Malawian or Ethiopian government, would you pay back South Africa, or would you just say to them that you decided to deport these people, you decided to spend money, so why are you sending us the bill? Let me know what we think in the comments, especially if you're South African, a Nigerian, a Malawian, an Ethiopian. I want to hear your side of the story because this is very, 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 very interesting. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and also turn on your notifications to get more African stories. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.